So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiancé MK. I'm Mr. O, and today, Ms. H and I will be discussing Season 7, Tell-All Part 4 of Happily Ever After. In this final episode of the season, we slowly and painstakingly revisit every bump on Yara and Jovi's season. Everyone seems to be reaching their wits' end with Ed. And then on the offstage portion wraps up, and we have some more time at the hotel, where Usman yells at Michael, Angela works her newest rehabilitation tour to get in everyone's good graces, and Ed and Liz are still taking up more attention than they deserve. As always, we'll end with our Students of the Week, class dunces, and life lessons. If you also watch Love After Lockup, you should listen to our other channel, Love After Lockup MK, where we're covering the new season of Love After Lockup. Alright, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy.
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you today?
It's grading week for me, so busy.
I had that a couple weeks ago, so this week is procrastination week.
Oh, the week after grading week, you don't grade shit. You just let them all pile up again and then go, why did I do this again?
Right. So that's what I'm in the midst of doing right now. All right. Well, let's move on to our first couple that we didn't really see much of in this last part 4 of the tell-all. That's Bilal and Shaeeda. But I was kind of surprised at how things ended with them. So when Bilal and Shaeeda are alone, Shaeeda sings the praises of all the changes she has seen in Bilal. Their bed is covered in rose petals, and Bilal answers the question posed to him by production that, will they make a baby tonight? He says they'll see what happens. But the next morning they say that they could have made a baby. They don't know. Shaeeda says that things are different now, and Bilal actually has agreed to actively trying for a baby, opening a joint checking account, and working on Shaeeda's business. So the fact that Bilal seemed to magically change his mind with someone we've kind of seemed to be somewhat annoyingly stubborn, do you think that, all their storylines have been fake? Do you think that Bilal really has had a change of heart and he sees how serious Shaeeda is? Or is Bilal concerned that he doesn't want to turn into his friend Chris?
I was thinking about somebody else he doesn't want to turn into. I definitely had a few moments in there when, somebody opened their mouth and I would be like, if I was on the stage and that person was on my side, I would be like, oh no, I've made some terrible error in judgment.
Right.
This is awful. I must have done something wrong. And I do legit think that he kind of got some perspectives he didn't have before. I think he didn't really think much about the joint checking account or think of it just being it doesn't have to be all of his money. It just has to be an account that they share that she has access to.
Right.
And so that's easy enough. He doesn't have to give up complete control to her. And especially because I feel like he's like, well, I don't want to give her all access to my money. And there were a lot of them who were like, well, we don't give them all our money. We just have an account that we both have money in.
Right.
And he was like, well, okay, well, that seems reasonable. I could do that.
Yeah.
Right. And he had already, before the tell-all, he had already agreed to the baby stuff, right? Even if Shaeeda backed out of it at first. And so, yeah, I don't know if it was a full-on fake out, because I also don't know how much time passed between their time their filming ended and between the time the tell-all happened, right? Because I don't know that it was even necessarily a change of heart for the baby stuff. If he was like, oh, we'll try in 2 years. Well, it might be pretty close to 2 years after they got married now.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I don't know. There wasn't much of them to say. It's Bilal. I mean, if truly these were the changes he wanted to make in his heart, maybe he isn't as bad of a guy as I have thought he was this whole time.
Yeah, but he's still a mansplaining person.
Yes. He's still super annoying.
Yeah, even the way he says he agrees to do the things is why do you sound like you're a parent agreeing to increase their somebody's allowance every time you talk like this?
He does. Yeah, he does have a condescending way about him for sure. All right, let's move on to a couple that had a little bit more loose ends to wrap up, and that's Angela and Michael. So we start off with Michael going to talk to Usman at their shared hotel because he's trying to smooth things over. Usman says that he was on Michael's side at first because he didn't know the whole story. He didn't know that Michael was a child with no self-control and was actually cheating on Angela, but now it all makes sense. Michael tells Usman not to come at Angela, and as Mr. O had said earlier, that was his favorite line of the show.
Yes. Uh-huh. Right, because the answer is a capital no.
And Usman says that he has no problem with Angela, but if someone's coming at him, he will fight back. Michael says that he just needs to calm down his wife. They hug it out and say there's nothing but love between them. After the tell-all, Angela has changed into her red sequined jumpsuit. She jokes with Andrei how she's going to move to Florida and date Chuck, his father-in-law. She says that she's not sure what she's going to do because she's still processing the whole situation with Michael. She says that changes are coming either way. Jovi asks Angela if Michael is hanging out with Usman, and Angela says if he is, they are done because she's exhausted. She brings up what a bad influence Usman is. Angela is hitting on the bartender, Valentino, who is married. She asks if he has a brother or friends because she wants to engage in wild, meaningless sex. Later, Angela definitely shares way too much about, their sex lives.
Way too much about physical things that we don't need to know about. Yeah.
Right. So I won't repeat them all to y'all. Just know that there was way too much. So Angela talks very crudely about foreplay. And later, Kim makes some comment about how she thinks Angela will go back to Michael. And Angela, she doesn't deny it. They end up hanging out in a room together later, and Angela defends herself, and Kim says that her and Usman have always thought the issue was her, but, after hearing what Michael did, maybe not. Angela says that she defends and enables the people that she loves, which means shielding Michael from, everybody else's opinions. Angela admits she's scared to bring Michael to the U.S. and wonders if he's just coming here to get to be closer to the woman he was cheating on her with, who was also American. All right. So, Angela is not even pretending to deny she's going to get back with Michael or, let him stick around. But do you think the threat of him using her to get to some other woman is going to be the reality check she needs to really let it go for good?
No. And I think I kind of have a new working theory opinion of Michael. And that is, he is really fucking dumb.
Oh, well, I always thought that.
Like, dumber than I thought. And to the point where, I think she likes him around because he's so dumb.
Yeah.
And that's what you get. That's what you get to the cheating. He just sees woman as woman, talk. Yes. Hey, I love you now. He barely has a functioning brain. To the point the way they had it sound is, and the part that got to me was when he was talking to Usman, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, she doesn't want me talking to you. And he was like, well, that's because I'm a lot smarter than you and I'll actually talk some sense into you. And she obviously doesn't want that. He didn't even deny it. He didn't even say, well, you're not smarter. He was just yeah. It was obviously, you can put your pants on without help. That must mean you're a freaking genius. Usman says yeah, I'm a lot smarter than you. And that's what the issue is. She doesn't run you around anybody that knows that has two brain cells to rub together.
Well, I'm still it always comes down to this. What in the world does Angela see in Michael? He doesn't provide anything for her. I guess he's got somewhat of a sense of humor. Other than just legitimately being there, and that's not even all the time because, she gets upset when he doesn't answer his phone and whatever. But it's just he's a piece of furniture. I don't really understand what the draw is that is preventing her from, leaving him given how badly he treats her. Right.
And he doesn't even have, it's not like he has loyalty, right?
Right.
It's not like he has... he doesn't seem to respect her very much.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't figure out why either of these people want him around. As gross as we had talked about her sharing too much information, she does like having sex with him.
Yes. But she isn't even able to do that all the time because of the distance.
Right. Now that, granted, and she'd also take that poor bartender.
Oh my God, poor Valentino. He's like, no, not me, I'm married. No. Do you have a brother?
Wearing a ring.
Does your brother have another relative? Do you have a cousin?
No.
Everybody's
gay.
Friend?
They're all gay. They're all gay, Angela. I only know, that's all I have. That's all I know. I don't know any straight men. None at all.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but like, and I don't know. It's one of those things too, but like, they're not, neither of them are good people, right? And they're not wrong in that Michael is just a liar who will say whatever he thinks will get him out of trouble in the moment, even if it's like going to screw him over later. Like he just does whatever he does. He isn't being honest with anybody, but that doesn't mean that he's somebody that can be abused. Like she's been abusing him. Like they always kind of sweep that under the rug. Like that goes away. Like, yeah, but she like physically threatens him all the time. Yeah. And like is physically violent to him. Like you can't, that doesn't mean, well, you know, he scammed her. So that's what happens. Like they're both awful.
Right. Yeah. It would be interesting if I feel like the government made that decision for her and just denied the visa.
Yeah. I mean, it's that's the common thing for all three is you're right. What you were hitting on, as we come back to this over and over and over again, is like, why do you keep coming back if you know what's going to happen? Mm-hmm. And like, I can't explain it. I really can't.
Yeah. Someone needs to make the decision for them.
Yes, that would be better. But she'd still try to make it. I feel like she'd still try to make it work, even if they didn't get the visa. Like,
no, Angela has zero interest in moving to Nigeria.
No, I think she'd try to keep it working. Well, we'll try to get another thing. We'll do this. Maybe in 5 years we could try for the visa again. I think she'd just kind of keep him around. Like, however, doing the same thing they're doing now.
Well, it has been an awful long time. I feel like if it meant she got to stay on the show, if it meant that she got to stay on the show by trying to find someone else, I feel like she would choose that.
That may be true. Yes, that may be true.
At this point, she's just fame whoring. I mean, let's be real here. The way she came at everyone at the beginning and then like tries to apologize and make nice after the fact. It's like,
well, and then played nice and said like very saucy things that she knew would get people going like she knows how to get herself the attention,
the screen time. Sure. And so that's why it's like, I just feel like she's just on the show for attention at this point. And if you gave her attention by letting her be on a spinoff for another Before the 90 Days or something like that, she would be like, all right, well, let's do that.
Yeah. That
or The Single Life.
True. Yes. Oh, God. All right. So let's go on to the couple that took up, surprisingly, a majority of the episode and all of what we had left on the stage time. And that's Yara and Jovi. So I had thought that they had the least amount of storyline of anybody on the season, but we found a lot of things to talk about. So hold on. So we start with Sean asking Yara if she went through with the breast augmentation surgery. And she's like, can't you tell that I did? I have giant boobs now. Look at these. She says she's thrilled with the results, and Jovi says that he was against it at first because he thought she was being influenced, but both he and her are happy with the results. They both say that it made their love life better because she's not preoccupied with the way her breasts look. Yeah. So she got it done by Dr. Obang just like Angela did, and Angela is even a little miffed that Yara didn't call her for advice, but Yara says she didn't do that because Angela would have yelled at her.
Yeah.
So
she's not wrong.
We get more boob job talk because Shaeeda reached out to Yara at some point because she might be interested in doing it too. So we find out, then we kind of have our first controversy. We find out that during her recuperation period after the surgery, Jovi left to go to a South African safari trip with his friends. So in his defense, he says that the trip was already on the calendar before the surgery got scheduled, and it was Yara, he was on the calendar first. Yara's the one who made the situation happen. So they bring on Gwen via Zoom to ask what she thinks about stuff, including the surgery, which Gwen doesn't agree she should have done. But Yara's like, that's because you have big boobs already. So, of course, you wouldn't have to worry about it. So Gwen wants to get it on the record that while Jovi was in Africa, it was her that helped out with Mila because there was a recuperation period. So everyone jumps on him for not canceling his trip and called him like a child for ignoring his responsibilities. But he defends himself by saying that he arranged for Milo to be well taken care of, and it just wasn't him that did it. So even Yara defends him too, saying if this is the kind of trip and thing that's going to make him happy, then that's what she wants him to do. But Gwen argues that this was him putting his friends first. So Angela and Andrei pile on to say, oh, he should have been there for her surgery. But he was there for 10 days after. He left like after the most intensive part of the recuperation period. Plus, again, this was Yara's decision. So Liz even chimes in to say that give her 2 cents that this was also a completely voluntary surgery. So that does change the kind of calculus of the whole thing. So Gwen agrees, but thinks they should have come to an agreement about which one they did. But it's Yara and Jovi both think it's dumb because they did come to an agreement, and that's what they did. He stayed for 10 days, then went on safari. It's just that it's agreement Gwen didn't like. So Andrei and Angela wouldn't have come to the same agreement, and whatever, that's the issue here. So, and mostly the couple that's involved doesn't understand what the big deal is to everybody else since they don't care and it worked out fine for them. So after that, they move on to the part where Jovi brought up possibly having a second baby, which Gwen is also against. We get Gwen's opinion for everything because they can't even take care of Milo without her helping out all the time. So he just doesn't want to have kids that are 10 years apart. And Yara thinks they don't have enough time for a second baby. And Gwen doesn't want to be responsible for babysitting more than one kid. So Ed thinks this would be easier if he had a different job, but nope. People are already tiring of what Ed thinks. So Angela brings up the prospect of maybe, just maybe, you were thinking of this as a trap baby? And Andrei agrees, especially, and then Andrei agrees because he thinks Yara's hot and hotter than Jovi. So obviously, all he's trying to do is lock that down. So Jovi says it's not about that. It's about extending his family. So the shit gets more stirred by Sean asking everybody on stage if they think that Yara and Jovi rely too much on other people to take care of their child. The premise of which Yara starts crying about and denying, saying that she's taking care of her daughter and don't call me a bad mom. So Ed then projects his gross expectations for a relationship. He's like, oh yeah, it's hard for women because men expect them to be the provider and have a job and have dinner ready and, give me a blowjob at the end of the night. I don't know what it is, but it was real. It sounded more like those are Ed's expectations and not men's expectations.
Yeah.
So anyway, Sean notices that Gwen is getting emotional and they show us a recap of when they show us a recap of when they made up from a fight. And it turns out we didn't actually see the fight that kind of made Gwen take a step back and be a little distant. So it led to her not being around for a few months. So Gwen says that they live 2 hours away and she gets there as much as she can, but she can't go back and forth for those 2 hours, like 3 days a week. So yeah, they kind of still are, they talk about that for a while. So then we're going to visit everything. Oh my God. So then we go back to the apartment shopping in Prague and their discussion about Yara protecting herself financially then they kind of end with the scene of him saying that if they didn't have Milo, they'd probably be divorced already, which he stands by. But Yara just seems to think he has thoughts that he's to put more elegantly. This was an inelegant way of putting whatever he's thinking. Especially because I'm pretty sure she's said the same thing before. I thought
so too. I was just going to bring that up. She said if Milo wasn't around, we probably wouldn't be together. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you definitely wouldn't be together.
Right. And so I thought it was kind of crappy. So I think she was just like, that was an inelegant way of putting it, but she's probably right.
Yeah.
So they talked about who would be paying for the apartment if they did buy one, which seems like a really stretchy thing to be talking about right now. Would it be both of them or whatever? And Yara says that she wanted to buy it and just put it in her name. And then Bilal makes a joke about like in a joint account. Are we going to have a joint checking account?
Oh God, Bilal, shut up.
And then Andrei's on Jovi's side saying it would be better if they had them, if it was in both of their names together. So they ask her kind of what insecurities she has with Jovi, why she feels like she needs this extra security, and says Jovi just does dumb stuff sometimes. Yeah. So I don't know what dumb thing he's going to come up with. So of course, Andrei chimes in, to say that, well, yeah, that makes sense to me. You can't trust guys that go to strip clubs.
Oh gosh, because he's just trying to really rub it in.
That's all he has. Then Sean brings up how Yara said she was miserable in New Orleans, and she just says she can't wait to leave. So Jovi says they'll probably end up moving to Florida, which makes Gwen pipe up again to say that actually before they knew this, before they decided they were going to definitely leave Louisiana, Gwen and her husband bought property closer to them so that they could be more available. So he says that at the end of the day, Jovi says, if my wife wants to move and that's what's going to make her happy, then that's what we're going to do, which Andrei says doesn't matter. I don't know. That seems weird. So the timeline is, I definitely think that the property buy was before they decided to move and not after.
Yeah.
So anyway, then we see the recap of Yara with her mean girlfriends, and they bring on Symphony to the Zoom. So Jovi responds to the scene where he says, again, inelegant, that he wishes that Yara would stay away from these women. So Yara says, and the big controversy there was that somebody said that Jovi was out of she was out of Jovi's league, and oh my God, she like laughed at it, didn't like step up to defend her, and she's like, English is not my first language, and I didn't understand what they really meant when they said that. I was just kind of like going along with the conversation. So I'm sorry, no, I don't think I don't think I'm too attractive for him. So so Angela thinks that it's particularly rude. So Angela talks to Symphony. Symphony really seems to be backtracking by a lot of what she said in that scene, except for the part how she doesn't like how Joey talks about how she influences Yara, which I would also be like that. That's weird. So she talks about how every woman should be independent. And then Ed pipes up. And then that's when everybody attacks Ed for a while.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that part later. But after a bunch of really satisfying Ed bashing, Usman comes in to kill the whole vibe by trying to get the conversation back to the boring subject at hand about Yara not talking to these friends anymore. But Yara just gives Usman a like, are you finished? And that moves on. So then there's some more yelling at Ed. And finally, Sean breaks things up and ends the whole tell-all. So backstage, Andrei asks Jovi how much he liked getting bashed by everyone, and also, but he also mentioned how he's suspicious of Yara's motives, especially now that she's always trying to go back to Europe. So Yara doesn't know what the future holds, except for not being in Louisiana. So we come back again to the hotel where they're packing up, and before long, Yara is telling him how she wishes he did more romantic things like Bilal. Well, not exactly like Bilal, because putting the roses on the bed is really cheesy, but then they start fighting, and then they have another conversation about the out of his league comment, which she still doesn't get. And I kind of believe her, because she still thinks that they said out of his leak, like L-E-A-K. So she doesn't even know what the phrase means. So he thinks that her apology wasn't good enough. He should have defended her more. And they're all both mad at each other when they leave the room. So outside waiting for the car, she keeps poking at him about going back to the swamp and living with the alligators for a while until they kind of angrily get in the car and drive away. So like I said, we spent at least half the episode talking about them. So let's start from the beginning. Well, let's do that, because you're a traveler. What do you think about Jovi's decision to still go on his safari while she was recuperating?
I may have leaned towards Team Jovi just because of all of the circumstances. Like, it sounded like he had this planned before. And so how easy is it for Yara? He's got this on the calendar to plan around it. You know?
Well, according to the other people, according to Angela, it was like, nope, you do it when they tell you to do it. You cannot plan around it. That's
right.
it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm sure it meant she would just have to wait longer.
Yes.
Maybe 6 months. Maybe she'd have to wait 6 months. Well, I mean, then that's your decision. So either wait 6 months when your husband can be around, or do it now and like deal with having to make it work in your schedule.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely on Team Jovi for this. Because I've taken care of people after voluntary surgeries, and it is really hard.
Yeah.
But after the 10 days, like, you are better, right?
Yeah.
Enough that you can, you're not supposed to lift anything and everything, but it's also a voluntary, it's not a surgery you need.
Yeah.
Like if he had been like, oh, well, she had an appendectomy, or she had like a more serious surgery that was like an emergency surgery that she had to have done, and I was still like, peace out, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that would be bullshit. But like, he did the fun thing he wanted to do, and she did the fun thing that she wanted to do.
Right.
Like,
and his thing happened to be planned first.
Yes.
It is kind of odd to me, though, that he would have this vacation on the books without her in the first place, though. That's the only part that I find odd.
Yes. I mean, I in my head, knowing Yara, if he was like, oh, I've always wanted to go on an African safari, let's schedule one. And she was like, I'm not going on that. And she's like, you can go with other people. I am not. No, that sounds awful. That's the wilderness. It's dirty. I'm not doing that. No, you go with because I just, they spend enough time apart that I think that a lot of the other people on the stage, at least, just do not understand their relationship. Right. And do not understand that they are kind of independent. They do have more independence than most of the other ones. And I especially think that Andrei doesn't understand it. Yeah.
But at the same time, it just seems to me that if you have that much independence because he's at work all the time, that if he has time off, that you would want to, spend as much time with your partner as possible. So I can see where they're all coming from, because it's like, well, do you ever spend time together? If Jovi's just making his own plans, off vacationing while you're at home, stuck at home for whatever reason that it may be. But it's just like, does he ever come home?
Mm-hmm. Well, but the other thing, too, is I'm not sure how it goes, because the implication they had from last time is that she has not spent much time in Louisiana. Yeah. And we didn't actually dig to the bottom of that. Of all the things we didn't find out, like, where are you actually living? Where have you been spending your time? Didn't come up at all, except that it's too far away from Miss Gwen for her taste.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt bad for his mom. Also, I get that that's your baby and you don't want to hear other people call them ugly, but it's just like, you have to know that Jovi is like not conventionally attractive, right?
I mean, yeah, the thing is I actually think if you took Jovi and just, if he got his teeth fixed, like, he would look a lot more attractive.
Well, it's his mouth too, right? Doesn't Nick Kroll kind of have the same mouth? And doesn't he also kind of make fun of his mouth in the animated series? I think it's even called Big Mouth. Yeah. But to me, that's what it kind of reminds me of. I mean, like I said, Nick Kroll is like super famous. I mean, I'm sure Nick Kroll would have groupies, but I wouldn't say that Nick Kroll is conventionally attractive, not by like norm, I guess, standards of today.
I also don't know how I feel about Miss Gwen. Like, I feel like whatever we're getting is not the whole story. And I don't know if she's coding it to make her look better, if they're coding it to make them look better. Like, because for instance, we just bought property near them, right?
Yeah.
And she definitely makes it sound like, oh, we had no idea they were trying to move. We had no idea they were doing anything. And they waited until we bought this property and couldn't get out of it. And that's when they decided to move to Florida.
Right.
Whereas I could also see another version of this with, some of the nightmare mother-in-law stories that I've heard, or, in-law stories where it's like, oh, we're hearing that they might move out of Louisiana. So let's buy property close to them so they feel like they can't leave.
Yeah.
And like, we'll try to kind of trap them in there, and we'll do that on purpose. Like, so if we move closer, then they won't want to leave as much. So we'll buy this property. I could see that too.
I could see that, but at the same time, I don't feel like she's all up in their business, like, from day to day. Because if she was, she would be there a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think I just get the impression that they lived in the first couple seasons. They lived in downtown New Orleans, right? Mm-hmm. Or the first season, and she did not. She lived a significant amount of way, and they moved out of the city, quite far out of the city.
Yeah,
but not any closer to her.
Right.
And I think she's still mad about that.
Yeah, probably.
And I think a lot of what's going on is her kind of taking that out on them.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're expecting your mother-in-law to be there 3 times a week, that is unreasonable.
Yeah, 3 times a week is too much.
Yeah, unless for a couple-hour drive.
You should, I mean, even if it's not a couple-hour drive, like 3 days a week is the point when I would be like, even if it was my mom, I would feel like, well, let me give you some money, Mom. Like, let me give you something for this. I can't let you keep doing this for free.
I mean, my sister's mother-in-law literally lives next door, and she only takes care of my niece 1 day a week. And on occasion, when they ask, but I mean, that's once a week and next door.
Yes. Yeah. Well, my mom lives maybe 25 minutes from my sister. and she watches them literally every day. But my sister pays her. That's her nanny. Like my mom retired, and now that's her job is to watch my sister's kids, right? And so that's
cool gig.
That's a right, exactly. She's like, this sounds ideal to me. This is okay, like fine. And so that is different, right? It's different than just expecting. 3 days a week is a lot. And was it 3 days a week? It doesn't really matter. I was like, just when Jovi's gone or all the time?
Yeah.
I don't know. But
I don't think it matters.
It doesn't really matter. All right. So then what else do we have them talking about? How
attractive Jovi was, which we already talked about. How attractive
Josie comes up about from a few different people. And out of his league. And then that was it. I don't know. Just like that's the whole thing. We spent so much time talking to these people.
Yeah.
And I was frustrated with the amount of time that people were yelling at Jovi for something that Yara was fine with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that's like, well, you're not being responsible enough. And Yara's like, I think he was being responsible enough. And they're like, but he's not though. And she's like, why is that your decision? That's my decision.
Right. What I appreciate about them as a couple is, at least on this tell-all, they certainly kind of had a united front. You know?
They sure did, yeah.
And it was like, we have each other's backs. They weren't turning on each other like Bilal and Shaeeda, Ed and Liz, Angela, Michael, Kim and Usman. It's like almost everyone. I mean, Libby and Andrei were fine, but, almost everyone is like turning on their partners, whether they're with them or not. But I mean, they at least were like, okay, united front for the tell-all. We can disagree as much as we want during the season, but on the tell-all,
yes,
we're in this together.
It's going to be, in his defense, the ABC. In her defense, ABC. Like, I'm not going to say anything bad about you. You're not going to be anything bad about me.
Right.
Like, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, but speaking of the opposite, we can end with Ed and Liz. So Ed actually tries to call Jovi a crybaby, on set. So Jenny gets mad and butts in. Jenny brings up the fact that Ed has insulted everyone on set, and Ed says that Jenny had her turn, and Jenny says her turn is whenever she decides. So Ed then tells her to shut up. But Yara brings up that everyone has had issues with Ed. So later, Jovi has a pep talk with Ed about how he talks to women and tells him that he's lucky he was in a studio setting because in the real world, he would get his ass kicked. Jovi tells him firmly that he should never talk to any woman like that ever, and Ed tries to defend himself. But in the end, he kind of admits he was wrong the day before and that Liz is actually super amazing. Okay, that was all in the car ride, but now they're at the after party, and Ed starts making an enemy of the bartender Valentino by making fun of him or whatever. I didn't understand what was going on. So
it was because he said, "Are you Italian?" And he was like, "No, I'm Mexican." And Ed was like, "I'm Mexican," and they were like, "No, you're not." Right.
No, you're not. So he starts trying to talk to him in Spanish, and it was awkward and weird. Yeah. So Jovi and Yara think that Ed is a clown, and they can't take him seriously when he's calling them a pussy and a bitch 1 minute, and then apologizing about it the next. Liz sits down with Jenny and says she's annoyed, and Jenny can relate because she's also annoyed with Ed. Jovi tries to pull Ed aside again, and Ed says he will only talk to Jovi if it's not negative. Which Jovi apparently ignored that preface.
I think he even told him, he was like, I'll only talk if it's not negative. He was like, no.
So Jovi repeats that he doesn't like how Ed talked to his wife, Yara, or Jenny. And Ed says that they already talked about this in the car, so he's done. So Liz is talking to Jenny and how she was shocked by the information she found out this weekend, with Ed and talking to Rose. She says she feels disrespected. And Jenny says that, why are you surprised? He's been disrespectful to literally everyone, and especially to you when he asked for his ring back. Jenny begs her not to take him back again. Liz says that she just needs to keep her focus on being a role model to her daughter. Liz says Ed is a liar and he's never going to change his behavior. She says she deserves better. Jenny repeats, please don't go back to him. Kim then drops in to give some advice to go talk to Ed for closure. She even suggests maybe throwing a little red wine on his white shirt. Ed follows Liz from the bar, asking to talk to her. And Liz says not at this moment because she's busy talking to the other women. And Ed says, well, he's leaving now because he has to work in Boston. He claims he just wanted to make sure that she was going to get back safely. Liz wants to know why everything is always on his time. Why couldn't he just wait until she was done with their conversation? Liz asks him to whoop her ass if she gets lonely and tempted to go back to Ed. Liz tells us that she just got a new car and the license plate says Big Ed's Girl, and she kind of cringes at herself. Angela comes in to say that she can see through Liz and she knows that she's going to be a softie and forgive Ed, and she's going to end up getting back with him. Later, Ed is packing up in his room, saying that he doesn't know how to be with Liz. I mean, he said that so many times, but doesn't want to be enemies with her. He claims the engagement ring was $13,000, and he will probably end up just giving it to his daughter. He had originally invited Liz to go to Boston with him, but doesn't want her there now. He sends a group message to the producer and Liz, basically asking the producer to make sure that her flight is changed back to San Diego so she won't be have an itinerary to go to Boston with him. The text makes Liz cry, and Jenny is confused why she's even crying. Liz says that she's actually pissed. Liz is thankful she has her own place back in San Diego because she doesn't know what she would do if she was living with him. Liz says that none of this is acceptable, and she absolutely swears that this is the last breakup. She's looking forward to her life ahead. All right, so how do you go from this to supposedly being back with Ed?
I don't know, but I'm also not surprised. Like she's just, every time she says I'll never get back with him, and that's why
he
all
treats
of the
her
people
that
she
way.
was with,
like
left her because there's too many people like, I cannot watch you do this again.
Yeah.
And then she does it, right? And they're like, so that's how she ends up isolating herself like that. But at some point you have to be, I feel like somebody has to, I don't know, kick her in the pants and be like, no, Liz, this right here that you are complaining about and things, this is what you like. This is what you wanted, or else you wouldn't keep coming back to it. Stop pretending like this isn't what you like, because this is exactly what you like. You love this drama. You love this nonsense. And that's why you keep coming back, because you get more of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kim was supposed to whoop her ass. I mean, Liz made her promise, but I don't even think a whooping from Kim is going to help anything. No, because if the whooping, I mean, all the shit she took from Ed doesn't change anything. Yeah.
That's worse than a whooping from Kim, right? And it's just dumb. Like that's why I am with it. I understand everybody that wants nothing to do with both of them. Yeah. And so it's just, I mean, I did enjoy the part in the studio when everybody was just like, Ed, shut the fuck up. Yeah. Like, and he was like, but you guys came for me.
It's like, yeah, you deserved it. It's like, he was just lashing out just to lash out.
Yeah. And then, well, it got to the point where I feel like there was definitely a turn, and maybe I think it was even before Jenny had her like moment of everything, where they were just like, all right, shut the fuck up, Ed. Talking, and then went on talking to somebody else. Right? Yeah. They were just like, you're not even a serious person. Just shut the fuck up. Yeah. Right. And like, yeah. And then him in the studio, and then the bullshit. Like, it's just, yeah. I would have been as frustrated with Liz maybe, but like the stuff he did. And he tries to bullshit us. I just wanted to make sure she was coming back to the right place. I'm just trying to make plans. This is how she's going to treat me.
He's
it's like
trying to hurt her for sure.
Yes, that is absolutely. And then, I'm just going to see her, and so it's a production. It doesn't say the flight. I'm not trying to be any aggressive things. Like, that is the worst hiding of passive aggressive bullshit I've ever heard in my life. And I was also very confused by the timing, because she said when she left, she was like, I thought we were going to be going back to San Diego together, and he was supposed to be with me, and now we're apart, and who knows, whatever, right? But he was like, well, I'm going to Boston tomorrow, so I'll see. Like, that was already decided before they had their little like last thing where he made them change the flight plans and stuff. So I don't even know. They're not even on the same page for anything.
No, I mean, I think that, at least what he said was that he was going to Boston for a speaking engagement. And I have to like hold up for a second. Like, who in Boston is hiring you for a speaking engagement? Like, they're an educated group over there. They have nothing to learn from you.
Absolutely nothing. Oh, yeah. And unless it's like a speaking engagement at like, I don't know. What's the worst school in Boston? I don't know.
No,
There's gotta
but
be
there is
some
no
local
worst school in
flunky
Boston. That's what I'm trying to say.
There's still local losers in Boston who end up going to a college and going into the frat at the college. Like they exist everywhere, even if Boston is, even if you happen to be the same city that Harvard and MIT are in. Like there's gonna be one of those too.
No, I just don't see it. No one has anything to learn from him.
No, but it's not a speaking engagement as much as it's a photo op thing. It's like
well, if it's like an
look,
appearance, like, here, take your picture, have a signing at some random like reality show, Z-list event.
Yes, but if that's what it was, is there any doubt that Ed would call it a speaking engagement?
Oh, probably. That's very actually true. I kind of got the impression that he was trying to take a train there. So maybe he had a train there and then he was coming back and then flying from New York back to San Diego. Yeah. So maybe she was supposed to go with him to Boston and then fly back with him, or at least stick around in New York and fly back with him.
Yeah, to be fair, that is like the little small stretch of the country where it's actually convenient to take trains anywhere. Yeah. It's from DC to New York to Boston.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So that wraps up our season. So that means we have power rankings. So power rankings are who we think deserve to be the most, I guess, likable to us. I guess. Yeah. We have 14 cast members. This is solely based at our personal preferences, opinions, our perspective of how things went down. So we'll start off with our number one. Who is your number one, Mr. O?
My number one was Libby.
Okay. All right.
I thought she was just fine.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of drama going on. She does recognize Andrei's side. She is trying to be gentle with him. She does try to keep everybody together.
Yeah, but she also calls him out, it's not aggressive, but she calls him out like, no, I never said that. No,
yes.
You got to get along with my family. So yeah, definitely very high up there. But I had her as number 2, and I think it's just because I kind of forgot she was around, and she really didn't have an opportunity to really roll in the mud with the rest of them. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that's
she was
only
removed.
reason.
Much easier to not get involved with the tell-all drama when you're not there.
Right,
yes.
Which is a lot of times where people really slide down in the rankings is like what went down in the tell-all. So I actually went number 1, Yara. I mean,
okay.
I like her. Like, she's the person that I would want to be friends with. She's
yeah, absolutely. That's
she's
not
a
even,
cool
not even
girl.
Close.
Yeah, she's funny. For the most part, she's stayed out of drama. I would say that she was a little headstrong and stubborn about a couple things, but at least she was communicating her wants there, and just Jovi didn't react well to it, and there's only so much she can control in that situation. So I went with Yara number 1. I mean, also the sympathy factor. I mean, being from Ukraine. So I went with Yara number 1,
true.
Libby number 2. So who is your number 2?
My number 2 was Jenny.
Mm-hmm.
She was good. I mean, I feel like she got out of the mud. She kind of did realize what it was. Your family's never going to accept me.
Yeah.
You can do what you want with your family. I'm out of it. Like, I don't care. And maybe we should consider moving to the U.S., at least visit the U.S. And then she got the best of Ed at the tell-all. So that really moved her up.
So that actually moved Jenny up for me, because usually I think Jenny is a little on the whiny side. And I don't even know if it's because she's actually whining so much as I just think that's her voice. Like, that's just the cadence of her voice. But when Jenny went after Ed, I was like, oh yeah, maybe you're not such a pushover like we kind of see a lot of times. I feel like she just kind of accepts how things kind of happen to her. But I like that she stood up for herself. So Jenny definitely went up in the ranks after that. So Jenny was my number 3.
So my number 3 was Yara.
Okay.
And I just thought there was a little bit of stuff she could have handled a little bit better in terms of how she broke it. And to be honest, it's because part of the middle of the season, she was kind of whiny.
Yeah.
And that was bothering me. But yes, you're right in that if I had to pick out any cast member that like, oh, you have to hang out with a cast member, Yara would be my pick by a mile.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
it wouldn't even be close.
Yeah. She's definitely the more likable of this group. All right. Who was your number 4?
My number 4 was Sumit.
Okay. I also went with Sumit.
Just, he was fine.
Yeah. I mean, he never did anything terrible. I mean, he lies to kind of people please, and I find that super annoying. And it's just like when the lies were so ridiculous, like, oh, we'll have a child. It's like, really? Come on now. Oh, maybe my mom will be there. Come on, let's accept that mom is not down for this. Like, just move on.
Yeah, and he's moved lower because of lying to his parents about possibly wanting a child.
Yeah, right.
is not the greatest.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. So we agreed in our top 4, slightly different order. What about your 5?
5, and this is where it gets. I could see the next couple moving around. I went with Andrei.
Oh God, really? Okay.
I mean, he is abrasive with the way he talks.
Yes.
But I don't know that he was wrong, and he stuck to his guns on most of his stuff. He just is, I guess he is. It depends on how much he personally annoys you with the way he talks.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, Andrei is way far down on my list. So my number 5 was Shaeeda. I appreciate that she's trying to get what she wants out of the relationship so she's happy and she's not settling. Sometimes I feel like she doesn't really stand up on her own. She really like, well, my friend said this, Yara said this, and really tries to use other people. Like Yara has a joint account and it ends up that this is really common. And it's like, she doesn't just say what she wants. And I find that like kind of annoying. It isn't like a quality of a strong woman like she's trying to project herself to be. But I mean, other than that, really, that was like her only fault. And to be honest with this group, that's like such a slight fault. Yeah, I mean,
Shaeeda was my number 6. And she really fell farther down just because I was like, there was too much of beating the same drum all season long, and it was annoying, and she was whiny about it. Like it was just like, and it wasn't that she particularly did anything wrong or was bad in the relationship or was bad with how she was necessarily handling things. It was just like, oh my God, do we have to have another scene of her talking about this fucking baby? Yeah. And that made it lower for me because I didn't like to see her on my screen.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, who was your number 6?
6 was Shaeeda for me.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So my number 6 was Jovi.
Okay.
I didn't disagree with a whole lot of what Jovi did this season. I did find how he kind of like got real stubborn about something, like, Yara coming back. That was definitely like, whoa, where is this coming from? Like, you can't just tell someone straight up what to do. Like, you're supposed to be in a partnership. Absolutely discuss it. But it was like he was trying to like say like, no, you have to do this. And it's just like, who are you, her parent?
Oh, for sure. So Jovi was my number 7. He was next on my list too. And it was same reason, just because the parts, I mean, he had concerns. Yeah. But he's also just, and she's right, he's awful in how he says it. He says the things in the dumbest possible way. Like, I don't want to hear, I don't like her hanging out with them because they're a bad influence on her. Again, what are you, a parent?
Yeah.
Like, and even parents, when they do that drives me crazy when parents do that. Because I don't know if you've ever had the parents that come in and go like, well, they're hanging out with a group of kids and they're just bad influences. And you really just want to stop and be like, I'm going to stop you right now. Your kid is the bad influence.
Right.
It's the other kids that are being influenced by them. Like, let's just stop.
Well, that and just raise your child to not be influenced by other people. It also seems like your child is part of the problem.
And it's also that it just seems insulting and belittling to your spouse, that you're like, well, if she talks to her mom, sure, she's just going to get brainwashed into thinking something new.
She's a mindless zombie.
So there, I demand that you come back home with me. So it was, that's what you're right, moved him lower on the list.
Yeah. Okay. So my number 7 was Liz. It's like she just made it to the middle because really her only fault is still going back to this guy. And it is super annoying, but I mean, like, she is actually kind of a likable person. And it like really even upsets you even more that you're like, how is this like person who seems somewhat normal other than her weird self-esteem issues that keep making her go back to Ed. Like, she seems like someone who's like fun and attractive. Why does she keep going back to Ed?
Yeah, I mean, I have Liz lower, so
Yeah.
we'll get that. Because it's just, I put more stock into that glaring personality flaw.
Right.
So that brings to my number 8. My number 8 was Bilal.
Okay, not too far down for me.
Did not think was as bad this season
No.
as he's been in previous seasons.
Yeah.
Now, was he still stubborn? Was he still lectury? Yes, but less lectury,
Yes.
I think, than he has been in the past.
Slightly less.
No pranks.
Yeah,
no
thank
pranks that
God.
were played, right? And then at the end of the day, he did like at least vocally agree to change something,
Right,
to make it work better for him.
Yeah, so Bilal was my number 9. Definitely an improvement from the last time we saw him. Nothing he really did was super infuriating. I did find his friend infuriating, though.
Yeah, that guy was off.
Yeah, so it's just like, I don't know. That makes me suspicious. Like, this is the company you keep? Ugh, birds of a feather and all that.
Yes, well, also with the person he kept offending.
Yeah, yeah. So my number 8, sorry to go backwards, was actually Kim. I thought there wasn't anything that was like really terrible she did. She wasn't like begging for sex or anything weird like that. I mean, I think like she was actually genuinely thinking about the adoption thing. Like, it wasn't just some flippant, like, oh yeah, I'll just go with it. Because it really seemed like Usman did. He was just like, oh, here's a solution. And she's like, no, let's actually think about this and talk about this. And I really think she took it very seriously, which is why I really think that she stuck with, at the end of the day, like, her and Usman are not together. And so, yeah. And I feel like Kim kind of redeemed herself at the tell-all for me as being kind of like very kind to everyone, right?
Yeah, and she did. She definitely went out of her way to do that. So Kim was my number 9.
Okay.
And this is just one of those things where you forget how long this freaking season was.
Oh, yeah, it was very long. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because there was water throwing at the end.
Oh, yeah, I kind of forgot about that, yeah.
Right? And PS5 giving, and just it's another one of those ones that just drives me nuts with the back and the forth. And I know it's better to break up with him, but I just have things for. It's just it annoys me. It annoys me too much that she moved lower than Bilal for me.
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah. All right. My number 10 was Michael. I mean, we didn't really see much of him. That he was doing something bad. I felt like everything was mostly reasonable. And then you get to the cheating thing that was like,
yes,
but that's pretty bad, so you're at 10 for that.
Yeah. So my 10 was Liz, for her glaring, it's just one of those things. It's like, wow, she's a sweet person. I know she has her issues, but just every once in a while she sets a house on fire.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Like, okay, well then she can't be your friend and she's actually not a good person.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's where I kind of feel with her getting back with Ed. You can't be good. I can't like you if you keep making this obvious bad decision that is a bad decision when you make it. And you say it's a bad decision when you make it, and you still go ahead and do it anyway. Like, and there's only so many times you can do that. And it's like, nope, you're bad too. Like, this is awful.
Definitely. All right. How about your number 11?
So my number 11 was Usman.
Oh, mine was also Usman.
I mean, just because they nailed him at the tell-all. They're like, yeah, you're just doing this so you can get influence and be on the show. That's the only reason you're pretending to be into Kim.
Yeah. That and, trying to figure out the child solution, kind of like trying to play everyone's side, right? He's trying to play mom's side. He's trying to play Kim's side. Just even going out on that date and you're just like, well, are you into this person? Like potential first wife,
right.
It's just like, I just felt like he was putting on a front for everyone just to make them happy, but it was very much because he's trying to get his way and not because he's a people pleaser. He doesn't care about making everyone happy as long as he's getting his way and Yeah.
No,
he
and he does
scammy.
that thing where I know she said no, but I'm just going to keep working it, and I'll turn that no into a yes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He wanted to freaking kidnap his brother's 4-year-old.
I know,
like,
that was also very weird. So,
and it's something that they were like, this is a total normal thing in Nigeria. You know who didn't act like that? That kid's mom.
oh yeah, she was like, oh hell no, yeah.
Normal.
But she was like,
thing that
oh, we're
happens all
on
the
camera.
time.
I got to make it seem like I don't want to, but maybe. And it's like, no, that mom is not relinquishing that child.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Who is your number 12?
So my number 12 is Michael.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, between the cheating things and the things, I mean, everything that Angela was accusing him of, she was right about.
Yes.
Like even Usman was like, oh yeah, she was right not to let you have an Instagram because you will talk to anything with boobs.
Yeah.
Like you will just go right in there. Like you're that dumb. Like, that you have that little self-control.
Yeah.
That you just can't help yourself to do anything. And he was like, oh, especially because he didn't even defend himself. He didn't defend himself when Usman called him dumb.
Oh my gosh.
Like to his face. He was like, well, you're dumber than me. And Michael was like, oh, that's probably right. Yeah. Like,
oh my gosh. I went with Andrei for my number 12. The thing that I find him is so frustrating is because he is stubborn and he cannot be told that he's wrong. There is no world where he is not perfect, where he has not contributed to some kind of conflict. It's always everybody else's problem. And he aggressively stands by that, you know, to the point where why should I have to go to therapy? They're the ones who have problems. You know, like, we're going to cut you off. No, I did not volunteer for that. I'm the wife and saying no. Well, she told me that, you know, it's just like, and he even like went hard at like Jovi. There are moments where it's like, oh, there you go. Like he's actually trying to be supportive or he's actually trying to be a nice guy. But it just seems so far and few between from what we've seen. I think he is capable of being a good guy, but we don't see much of that.
Yeah, and I guess part of my rating Andrei higher was that the antagonists in his story, I would still rate lower than him. Yeah. And so I'm like, well, yeah, he was better than everybody else but Libby on his story. So maybe Chuck, but the rest of them were awful. Yeah. Like and so it makes him come across as a little bit more reasonable. But I have also feel like I've dealt with more Andreis and I have a little more of a deft hand for, you know, kind of getting him to realize that actually something else needs to happen without being like, you know, because I also felt like when he got into it with Jovi, they were just feeding Jovi lines. They're like, hey, Jovi, tell Andrei it's his fault. We want you to go just out of nowhere. Just tell Andrei it's his fault.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and then the thing is, too, like, why are you going to keep coming at Jovi with, like, the strip club line?
The strip club thing.
I mean, that's old, dude. You've said it, like, at least 10 times now.
And not only did you said it, it's not like his wife didn't know about it. Yeah. And it's also not like, that's another thing that Yara was like, I don't care. Yeah. Like, she didn't like it that one time when she was uncomfortable and he insisted and she say, but, like, yeah, she knows that Jovi liked strip clubs. Yeah. Like, and so it's just weird. But not surprisingly, the last two people left for both of us are people we probably could have penciled in at this position at the beginning of the season.
Yeah. All right. Who did you think was the less worse of the two?
Unbelievably, Angela.
Okay, I did too. Yeah.
Like, I mean, and it wasn't particularly close. As bad as she is, as much as I dislike seeing her on my TV, and I dislike hearing about her coochie all the time. Like, she was still not as bad. Now, don't forget, again, that's a long season. This is the season when she ripped apart Michael's car. Yep.
And tried to, and it was only unsuccessful because the other person didn't feel the same way about her, but she did try to get herself in another 90-Day Fiancé situation with Canadian Billy.
That's true. Yeah. Right. And just because she definitely went on to a rehabilitation tour at this tell-all. Like, she came in hot, like, and was like, oh, yell, and then kind of like realized where it was going. And then the whole rest of the time was just trying to get in everybody's good graces.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like in Yara's face. And then she's like, oh, you should have called me so you could yell at me. Yeah. So definitely that. So, okay. So, I mean, no surprise to anyone who has listened to our podcast. Mr.
Yeah.
Noah, I definitely agree. Ed is the worst. And I would
Worst.
even
He's the
venture to
worst.
say he is the worst person we have ever seen on this franchise, in any of the spin-offs. I mean, and I would say by a long shot. Even I was like, but worse than Colt? Yes, worse than Colt.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think it's particularly close.
No.
He is the worst person we've seen on the show.
Yeah.
He absolutely is.
And what's sad is that I feel like he doesn't have the self-awareness to understand why people would think he's the worst person on the show.
Well, and because that's the thing that bothered me in the tell-all the most about him is anytime anybody said anything, he chimed in on everyone's story.
Yeah.
And every time anybody said a thing about him, is like, well, you guys don't know our story. And it's like, God news for you, Ed. You don't know their story either.
Right. I don't even think you know your story.
You don't know theirs. So, like, the idea that they can't talk because they don't know your story, which that means that you should shut up about everybody.
Right.
But he just, and Bilal said it, and I hate this as an excuse. I think it's a truism. And I hate when people use an excuse to hurt people.
Yeah.
He just is so incredibly thin-skinned that everything hurts him.
Yeah.
And so he just is lashing out at everyone all the time. And then does it in such a way, he's kind of dumb about it because he does it in a passive-aggressive way that everybody sees through and he thinks is hidden. And so he's like, well, I don't understand why you'd be upset like that. Like the plane thing and the thing, well, can you come and talk to me? Well, I canceled the plane ticket. I just wanted to talk to her. It was like, you're transparently not what was going on, Ed.
Right.
You were trying to hurt her. You were mad that she didn't want to talk to you. So you threw a little hissy fit about canceling the plane and did a thing. And we all see that. And he just like, well, no, you don't know that. You don't know that. It's like,
right.
You're bad.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he will never agree that he is the worst person on the show because he will always make excuses for himself. You don't know my story. You don't know my situation. You don't know who I am. That's just a cherry picked, like, scenes that you've seen. And that's not like in the context of what really happened. And, so it's like just these never ending list of excuses. And I honestly think that's what makes him worse is his lack of self-awareness. It's like, I know he's gone to therapy in the past. He's mentioned it, but it's like, you need someone who really is like, you trust, that is going to kick you in the ass and be like, you cannot treat people like this.
Right. And I think he does. And then he says it because, and Jovi was right about that too. Like you were talking to the guy. He's such a coward.
He is.
On top of everything. Like as soon as they're lowering Jovi the car, he's like, he's really timid and apologetic. And you're right, I shouldn't have done that. And then it's back out in public again where he can show off. And he's like, we already talked about this in the car and you're a pussy and I'm not going to do this again. Yeah. Like, and he's like, he's such a, it's awful.
Yeah. I hope this is the last we see of him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other spinoffs he could possibly be on. Maybe before the 90 days if he has a new fiance after Liz.
Oh God. Oh God. I hope not. So that actually, I put that down as my life lesson because I have a life lesson to Sharp Productions. Stop putting this guy on TV.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason for him to be on any show for any reason.
I know.
Get him off of my TV.
Yeah.
And I think the sentiment is good. The ratings for this season are the lowest for the show in a really long time.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so people do not like this man.
Well, people don't like Angela and Michael either. And I mean, okay, maybe they like them in they're interesting, but their shit is so played out on the show. It's like, don't want another season of them.
Yes. So, I mean, and well, that kind of segues to, we'll circle back to your life lesson. But like, that's why I'm kind of the season that's starting now the other way. I think it's 5 new couples and then 1 from Love in Paradise.
I'm okay with that. And I think that'll be totally interesting.
Okay with that. I was like, I want new people.
Yes.
I always want new. I literally could, if they never made another HEA season, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, I kind of would. I mean, updates, but it doesn't need to be like a, 20 episode season update, essentially.
Yes, agree.
Yeah.
I could use it. If they went to like a 8 episode, 1 hour HEA to fill in between other things, I could deal with that. Yes.
Yeah.
But yes, this season that's been on since August
Oh my gosh.
is ridiculous.
Has it really been that long? Oh,
Yes.
so much of our life. All right. So my life lesson is actually, I feel like it applies to a lot of things, but a lot of couples, when you say it's done, it should be done. There shouldn't be any of this back and forth or whatever. Just it should be done.
Yeah. And they didn't even open it up to like, okay, so I've known people who have gotten divorced and remarried, then stay remarried for a long time.
Yeah.
Right. But when that happened, they were like not halfway divorced, right? They were like all the way broken up, did things, had their own lives, came back and like went together. But these people are all like, yeah, we're broken up, but I don't think we are, right? They never actually break all the way up to be able to reconnect in the future.
Yeah, and they actually say that too. They're like, well, I don't know if it's over. It's like
all of them said that.
Yeah.
Oh, I probably will take them back. It'll probably happen. Like, yeah.
Stupid. All right. So we will be back next week with a new season of The Other Way. And we have all new couples and one couple that we've barely seen on Love in Paradise. So hopefully this will be a good season.
And they're new to me because I didn't watch Love in Paradise.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So new to you. I watched it, but I actually really like Love in Paradise. I feel like those are compelling stories. I'm not sure why they're not longer than they are, but
I feel like that's the sweets. To me, that's better TV.
Yeah.
I want the story to end and being like, oh, that was it?
Yeah.
I could have done with a little more. That's better. You want to leave the audience. I think you want to leave the audience wanting more.
Right.
And this season did not leave me wanting any more of anybody.
No. But that being said, I thought the tell-all, like the switch up in the format was good. But why 4 episodes? Why?
Too long. Yes. I did enjoy the let's get people drunk together and mixing it up afterwards.
I like that.
It just did not need to be 4 episodes of that.
Like 2 episodes, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we'll be back next week. So until then.
All right. See everybody then.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye.